Did you know that over 60% of your engine's total wear and tear happens the exact second you start it up? It is absolutely true. Most engines do not blow up while you are cruising down the highway at 70 miles per hour or taking a relaxing road trip. They slowly die because of the tiny, almost invisible mistakes drivers make every single morning when they turn the key or push the ignition button. What you do in those crucial first 30 seconds literally decides if your car will struggle to make it to 100,000 miles or sail smoothly past the 300,000-mile mark with original parts. Today we are going through the exact daily startup habits that are secretly destroying your powertrain and how a few simple changes can keep your vehicle running like it just rolled off the showroom floor. Let us kick things off with a habit that feels completely harmless but is actually a silent killer for your motor. I am talking about running your car for constant short trips. You know the drill: a 2-minute drive to the grocery store, a quick hop over to the gym, or dropping the kids off just down the street. When you do this, you are forcing the heavy metal engine block to run cold constantly. A motor needs time to reach its optimal operating temperature, which is usually right around 200 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on your specific vehicle. If the block never gets hot enough, the natural condensation inside the crankcase never boils off. That trapped moisture mixes with unburned fuel and creates a highly corrosive, thick sludge that eats away at the internal components and rots your exhaust system from the inside out. Your oil literally turns into a milky mess that cannot lubricate properly. The fix is incredibly simple. Try to combine your errands into one longer trip, or at least take the car out on the highway once a week for a solid 30-minute drive to burn off all that nasty internal moisture. Now here is a secret mistake that almost nobody talks about, and it happens before you even put the car in gear. Starting your engine when the steering wheel is turned all the way to one side. Imagine you parked tight against a curb and left the wheels cranked hard to the left. When you fire up the engine the next morning, your power steering pump is immediately subjected to maximum hydraulic pressure at the exact moment the engine is at its absolute weakest. The oil has not even fully circulated through the block yet, and you are already demanding massive effort from the accessory drive belt. This heavy load strains the cold engine, bogs down the idle, and wears out the power steering seals prematurely. The smarter move is to always straighten your wheels before you shut the engine off. It is a tiny adjustment that saves your steering rack and prevents unnecessary heavy strain on a freezing cold motor. Another major error people make is just jumping into the driver's seat, jamming the key in the ignition, and twisting it all the way to crank in one fast, violent motion. Or if you have a push button, just stomping the brake and hitting start the second your door closes. You are completely skipping the fuel priming phase. Modern vehicles rely on high-pressure electric fuel pumps located all the way back in the gas tank. When you turn the key to the on position without actually cranking the starter, you give the car's computer a vital second to wake up, run its system checks, and most importantly, command that fuel pump to send a solid surge of fuel up to the fuel rail. Skipping this step means the starter motor has to work much longer and harder to pull fuel through the dry lines while the engine cranks without firing. Just turn the key one click, wait about 3 seconds until you hear that faint humming sound from the back seat stop, and then start the car. It is basic mechanical sympathy that extends the life of your starter assembly. Let us talk about the absolute worst thing you can possibly do on a cold morning. You start the car, and to get the heater going faster or just to hear the exhaust roar, you immediately step on the gas pedal and rev the engine. Listen, when your car has been sitting overnight, gravity has pulled almost all the slippery motor oil down into the oil pan at the bottom of the engine. The top end of the engine, meaning the camshafts, the valves, and the upper piston rings, are practically bone dry. When you rev an engine right after startup, you are forcing raw metal parts to scrape against each other at thousands of revolutions per minute with zero lubrication. It is like waking up from a deep sleep and immediately trying to sprint a marathon without stretching. You are permanently scarring the cylinder walls and wiping the critical material off the rod bearings. Give the car at least 30 to 60 seconds of idle time. The computer will automatically raise the idle speed to warm the catalytic converter. Anyway, so just let the machine do its job before your foot even touches that pedal. Hey, real quick, if you are finding these automotive tips helpful and want to save yourself from massive mechanic bills down the road, take a second to hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and ensures you never miss out on the deep mechanical secrets we share. Let us get back to saving your engine. Have you ever noticed how some people leave their air conditioning, windshield wipers, and radio at maximum volume when they turn the car off? That means the next time they start the car, all those accessories immediately turn back on the exact second the key is turned. Your battery and starter motor already have a physically demanding job to do, just getting a heavy hunk of cold metal to turn over against engine compression. When you add the electrical draw of the blower motor blasting air, the headlights turning on, and the infotainment system booting up, you are putting a massive unnecessary voltage drop on the entire electrical system. Over time, this daily habit degrades the internal battery cells much faster and puts a ton of thermal stress on the alternator, which has to work overtime trying to recharge a deeply depleted battery. Make it a strict habit to turn off your climate control, lights, and wipers before you shut the engine down. Give your starter the full, uninterrupted battery power it deserves. Moving on to something that requires you to actually use your ears, ignoring the specific noises your car makes during the first 3 seconds of a cold start is a terrible idea. Many drivers just tune out the mechanical sounds of their vehicle, but the initial startup is when your engine will tell you exactly what is starting to fail. If you hear a sharp, metallic rattling sound that goes away after a couple of seconds, that is often your timing chain tensioner struggling to build hydraulic pressure due to wear. If you hear a rhythmic, heavy ticking noise, you might have a failing hydraulic lifter that is heavily starved of oil. Ignoring these brief warning sounds because they magically disappear once the engine warms up is a fantastic way to end up stranded on the side of the road with catastrophic internal engine failure. Turn the radio off before you start the car and actually listen to the mechanical symphony under the hood. If it sounds like a metal can full of rocks for 2 seconds, get it to a trusted shop immediately before a minor repair becomes an engine replacement. We have all been in this highly frustrating situation. You go to start the car, it cranks, but it just refuses to fire up and run. Panic sets in, so what do most people do? They just keep twisting the key over and over, holding it down for 10, 20, or 30 seconds at a time, praying it eventually catches. Doing this is incredibly destructive to the vehicle. First, you are severely overheating the starter motor, which can literally melt the delicate copper internal windings. Second, if the engine is getting fuel but no spark, you are essentially flooding the combustion chambers. All that raw, unburned liquid gasoline washes away the incredibly thin, protective layer of oil on the cylinder walls, leading to instant metal-on-metal scoring. A seasoned auto mechanic will tell you that if it does not start after 3 simple attempts of about 5 seconds each, stop trying. You are not fixing it, you are actively making it worse. Step back, let the starter cool down for a few minutes, and start diagnosing the actual underlying issue instead of forcing the machinery. A hidden startup killer that gets entirely overlooked by everyday drivers is running on old, degraded, or incorrect viscosity motor oil. Oil is the literal lifeblood of your vehicle, but it absolutely does not last forever. As you rack up the miles, the oil naturally shears down, loses its thickness, and becomes contaminated with microscopic dirt and abrasive carbon particles. When oil breaks down chemically, it completely loses its ability to cling to vertical metal surfaces overnight. This means every single morning, your engine is experiencing a dry start with bare metal friction. Furthermore, using a thicker oil than the manufacturer recommends, just because an old forum post told you to, means the oil pump cannot push the thick fluid up to the valve train fast enough when the outside temperature drops near freezing. Stick to your factory recommended oil weight, use high-quality full synthetic, and do not stretch your drain intervals if you do a lot of heavy city driving. Clean, fresh oil is the absolute cheapest insurance policy you can buy for your engine block. This next bad habit is very common with people who recently switched from driving newer cars back to older ones. Holding the key in the start position for way too long. The engine is already fired up and is running perfectly on its own, but the driver keeps the key twisted forward for an extra second or two. You hear that awful high-pitched screaming grinding noise. That is the metal starter gear violently clashing against the rapidly spinning teeth of the heavy engine flywheel. Doing this grinds down the metal teeth on both components very quickly. Replacing a burned-out starter is annoying, but having to drop the entire heavy transmission out of the car just to replace a chewed-up flywheel is an absolute mechanic nightmare. The exact moment you feel and hear the engine catch, let go of the key immediately. Let the ignition cylinder return spring do its job. For those of you with modern push-button ignitions, just tap the button once firmly. You do not need to hold it down like a computer reset button. The vehicle's electronic control module will automatically engage the starter for the exact right amount of milliseconds. Finally, let us thoroughly discuss the severe damage caused by constantly starting your car with a weak or dying battery. Most people think a bad battery just means the car eventually will not start one day, but the severe mechanical damage happens long before that final dead click. When a battery is on its absolute last legs, it cannot provide the massive amperage required to spin the heavy starter motor at the correct rotational speed. The engine cranks over very slowly, sluggishly, and erratically. These hard, slow starts mean the fuel injectors are spraying liquid gas, but the engine is not turning fast enough to create proper internal compression and ignite the air-fuel mixture efficiently. You end up dumping raw fuel directly into the exhaust system, heavily fouling the delicate spark plugs and causing massive, rock-hard carbon buildup on the intake valves. Plus, the low electrical voltage causes the starter motor to pull significantly more amps to compensate for the weak battery, which essentially cooks the starter motor from the inside out. Do not wait for the tow truck to arrive. If your engine is cranking even slightly slower than usual on a cold morning, test and replace the battery immediately before it takes the starter and the ignition coils down into the grave with it. Taking care of a complex modern vehicle is not about having an advanced degree in mechanical engineering. It is simply about respecting the moving machinery and breaking those little careless daily habits that add up over time. Those crucial first 30 seconds dictate the entire functional lifespan of your engine. Treat the powertrain right during that morning startup sequence, and it will reliably take you absolutely anywhere you want to go for years and years to come. If you got some solid value out of this discussion and want to keep your ride running flawlessly, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment down below if you have been guilty of any of these common startup mistakes in the past. Drive safe, take excellent care of your car, and I will catch you in the next one.